Hello, everybody. My name is Amanda Ballone. I am one of the co-owners of Roseborough Travel, but on this presentation, you are going to know me as the person who absolutely loves Africa. If it's East Africa, if it's South Africa, if it's anywhere in Africa, I absolutely love it. It is my favorite continent in the world. I feel like I truthfully had to come home and do a DNA test to see if there's somehow, some way I could have been possibly from Africa. And though it did not pop up on my DNA, it definitely survives in my heart as a place that I connect with in so many ways. So everybody at the office gets to hear me talk about Africa and just go on and on and on about all the amazing adventures that you can have there. And Bruce from Salute Africa absolutely knows, because he hears me talking about it all the time. And every year I plan a new group trip that's doing something in Africa, be it South Africa, East Africa. Next one up is gorilla trekking.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, so exciting. So I'm going to let Bruce take it away, because he's going to do the Salute Africa overview of this trip, the destinations we're going to, and I may or may not insert my opinion a few times in there. So I'm sorry in advance, but okay. So Bruce Waters, take it away. Go ahead and tell our explorers everything there is to know about this amazing adventure.
Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And Amanda, I appreciate you organizing today's Zoom call. It's so funny to see the world in 2x2 squares now. This is how we live. But I have to admit, this is a great way to, see lots of folks at once, and especially talk about, places like this. And I would agree. I mean, I'm on board with Amanda on this one. I've been in the travel industry 40 years and quite frankly had the wonderful opportunity to see lots of the world in my travels and different companies that I've been with. But wow, I have to admit, South Africa was by far my favorite, my wife's favorite. She's got 1,600 pictures of elephants and giraffes to prove it. So it really is an amazing destination, because I think what you'll see even in this presentation here in a couple of minutes is, I think we kind of imagine Africa to be animals and getting the chance to see them on a safari, which you will. I guarantee you're going to see all the animals that you hope and expect and get some great pictures and have a lot of fun. But you'll also see too that, there's just so much more, especially to South Africa, because South Africa has beautiful cities like Cape Town, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, which is a beautiful, beautiful city. And then you'll see Victoria Falls, which she and I were just talking about. There's a picture that I'll show you in a couple of minutes. There's a place at Victoria Falls called the Devil's Pool, and Amanda took her people to the Devil's Pool, and you'll see a picture of that in just a moment. It sounds like she's brave enough to do it again, so congrats on that. So anyway, so today will be a lot of fun. It's just a nice chance to spend a few minutes and kind of go through the itinerary, the trip that Amanda's come up with for her group in September. Amanda, just so I know, how many folks do you currently have traveling? I know you've got a nice group going. How many folks do you have right now?
So we're maxing it at 20, and I think there's 16 on it right now. So we have 4 spaces left. Unfortunately, we had a few medical cancellations, but which is what opened this space up. So it's a blessing and a curse, but we maxed it at a group of 20 because we've done the group trips to Africa so many times that we know that 20 is the sweet spot for the perfect amount of people traveling together, the perfect way to explore and stay at all these camps. And by not having too many passengers in one group allows us the best experience in all of the properties we're staying at too. It allows us some of those more unique ones, like we will be staying at in Namibia and Botswana. So,
well, it's true. Actually, 20, yeah, I would agree. 20 is the perfect size, because many of the camps that you'll find in the national parks, they're not 200 room resorts. They're 10 or 15, chalets, glamping camps. They're generally quite small. So 20 is the perfect size. And so when you say you've got 4 spots, does that mean 2 rooms? Just so we know what we're referring to. Is it 2 rooms?
So it can be up to 3 rooms.
Okay, 3 rooms. Okay, gotcha. So that way we just have it. So folks listening, this gives you an idea that space is limited. That's the buzzword here. That if you are interested in going, then as you can see, there's very little space left. So I'd encourage you to contact Amanda and go ahead and get your room booked so that you know you're going, because she does have a nice group already booked, and we're just trying to fill the last couple of rooms. And with that, we'll go ahead and start the show. So this trip, as we've talked about, is nice because it's hosted by Amanda. So not only are you getting the chance to see South Africa, which is wonderful, but you're getting the chance to travel with Amanda. And if you don't know her, get to know her, of course. And for those of you that do, then of course you know and love her, and she's a great host. So it's really nice to have someone like Amanda actually escort the group, because I think too, quite frankly, for you as the traveler, it just gives you that confidence of knowing that someone's there from the travel agency that you personally know. So if you need something, they're there to help. Where if you're just traveling on your own, that wouldn't be the case necessarily. So this is nice. So Amanda, we're glad you're taking the group back. Amanda's trip that's coming up is September the 1st through September the 14th. Keep in mind, folks, that includes your flights. That includes your flight times back and forth. So you would leave, for example, on September 1st, get there on September 2nd, leave on September 13th to get back on the 14th. So just kind of keep in mind that includes your international air days. So that's the entire trip from start to finish. So that way you're looking at the whole thing. But anyway, this is going to be a great trip. I use this picture really just to kind of give you a quick visual picture of what we're talking about. So this particular tour, you're seeing actually three countries. You're seeing South Africa itself, which is a country there at the very bottom. If you look at that map, the green country, that's South Africa. And then if you look above it, you see purple and blue, that's Zambia, Zimbabwe. So that's up where Victoria Falls is. And if you see the gold country, that's Botswana. So your particular trip is fascinating because you're actually going to see three South African countries. So look at the map, look toward the bottom, look at the blue, gold, and green countries at the bottom, and that's where you're headed. So it just kind of gives you an idea. But I think it's fascinating because when you fly across the Atlantic into Africa, you're generally flying into something like North or Western Africa, and then flying into Johannesburg and Cape Town. So you're flying well below the equator. In fact, 3,000 miles away to the south of Cape Town is the Antarctic. So just starts to paint the picture of how far south, below the equator you actually are. This is an amazing, amazing trip. So anyway, that's where you're headed. So I wanted to show the map just to give you an idea of where you're flying to eventually. And believe me, it's all worth it. So as we talked about, to me anyway, this is how I've always seen Africa. This is how I thought about Africa the moment I started selling Africa with this company 7 years ago. Was when I pictured Africa, this is exactly what I was thinking, right? I was imagining all the animals. I knew I'd go to Africa and I'd see the elephants and the zebras and the lions and the water buffalo and the crocodiles and all that jazz. That's what I was expecting it to be, right? To get in the Jeeps, like you see that picture there of the people in the Jeeps, and you see the lions sitting 5 feet away. That's true. That's true. So that's kind of what I was imagining it to be, right? And it is. I guarantee you, your trip will include this many times over. You've got, in fact, looking at your itinerary, you've got many game drives coming up between Kruger and Botswana. So that's really going to make this even more fun.
We do.
So
it's very wildlife intensive. Wildlife filled.
So that's what, that's probably what, got your mind going, right? This is what you were imagining most likely when you were sitting there picturing, I want to go to Africa and see lots of animals. This is what you probably imagined. But, I think what you'll discover once again, as we go through our presentation, there's just a lot more to South Africa, especially than just the animals, right? That's a huge part of your trip. You're going to see lots and lots and lots of animals and get lots of great pictures and be 5 feet away and just so incredible. But you're also going to get these other opportunities to see places like Cape Town, which is just, quite frankly, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It's gorgeous. It's friendly. It's safe. And in fact, one of the things that I think you'll notice throughout your entire trip, very friendly, very safe. Everyone speaks English. So you don't really have any of these issues about, feeling unsafe or feeling even unwelcome by the people that you're, the countries that you're visiting. They welcome the travelers. They love you guys, and you're going to feel it. So it's safe and friendly and fun and really fascinating. So anyway, so this particular trip that Amanda's come up with, it includes all the highlights, right? Not just animals, but all the other fun parts of South Africa, which we'll look at in just a second. Because there's lots of history there, and there's a lot of modernization, like in cities like Cape Town. So lots of great things to see. All right, so we're going to kind of begin our trip then. Actually, your trip starts out in Cape Town. So what you're seeing here is the country of South Africa, right? The country of South Africa. So that includes places like Johannesburg, which is one of the big cities and an airport that you very often fly to and from. Down at the very bottom, you'll see Cape Town, which is what we'll talk about in just a minute. That's where you're headed. You're headed down to Cape Town for your part of your trip. But then up toward the top right is Kruger National Park. So that's where you're headed too. So, you can see within this country, you've got, destinations that you'll personally be seeing during your trip. So we kind of start your vacation out with 3 nights in Cape Town itself. And that's just, oh my gosh, you will really love Cape Town. To me, the only way that I can describe Cape Town to people is that's just what it reminds me of. It reminds me of kind of a combination of San Francisco's hilly streets surrounded by Hawaii. That's the only way that I can picture it, because it's gorgeous. It's because it's surrounded by these magnificent mountains. They come right down to the seaside. So as you drive along the coast, one side are mountains, the other side is the Indian or Atlantic Ocean, and it's just a beautiful drive and beautiful city. So anyway, you're going to stay at the AC Hotel, which is a Marriott property there at the waterfront. So it's the place to be. The waterfront in Cape Town is where all the action is. The shopping, the hotels, the restaurants. Good grief, the dollar conversion right now for the rand is like 7 to 1. So the shopping is excellent and the food is affordable because the conversion's so good. So anyway, so you're staying at a beautiful hotel, the AC Hotel, there in Cape Town. Gorgeous property, great location. You'll be there 3 nights. And so that's where you'll kind of start your trip. This is just a couple of pictures of, Cape Town itself. I love both because the picture on the left, you kind of get a good idea of Cape Town, right? The city of Cape Town. So you can see all those mountains that literally surround the city. And the city sits on the edge of, literally the edge of the South African continent. We're at the bottom of the continent at this point. Toward the bottom of that picture on the left, you see some sailboats. You can maybe see that in the picture. You see some sailboats. That's the waterfront. So you'll be staying down in that area. So you can see where you're at, which is a gorgeous area. In the background, we see some mountains. We see that flat mountain, right? That's the famous Table Mountain, which we'll talk about in just a second, because you'll be headed there. In the middle of that picture on the left is the football stadium. So this is a beautiful city, right? It's modern, Western, English speaking, and down at the waterfront, especially, my God, the shopping and the restaurants, it's incredible. There's a million restaurants down there and tons of shopping. A big mall, in fact, is right there. One of those big round Ferris wheels like you see in Orlando and Vegas. They have one of those there now. So this is gorgeous. So anyway, so while you're there on that day, what you're going to do on that day, we've got a fairly busy day planned for you, because you're going to go and see a couple of things. You're going to do a tour of Cape Town itself, the city. So that includes seeing, like, the City Hall, Parliament, the beautiful gardens, which are nearby Parliament. But then certainly the highlight of that day is getting the chance to go over to Table Mountain. And I'm sure you did that, Amanda, when you were there. You're a daredevil. So on the right, on that picture on the right, you see what looks like cables, right? Those cables. Well, you're going to take a cable car up to the top of Table Mountain. So yes,
we're going to rappel down this time.
Are you really?
I would totally do that. So if anybody else going on this trip wants to do that with me, let me know, because we'll let everybody else go back down on the cable car and we'll rappel down.
Oh my gosh, Amanda, you're the only person that I know is brave enough to do that. That's for sure. Oh, but well, anyway, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So during that day, after the city tour, then of course we'll take you over to Table Mountain, and it is fascinating because you take the cable car to the top and you stand there. So look again at that picture on the left. You see that flat mountain. That's where you're headed, right? The cable car takes you to the top of Table Mountain. And it's just really interesting because, when you look north, you look at the city of Cape Town, and you look south, and 3,000 miles away is the Antarctic. That's your next stop. So talk about an amazing view. So anyway, so that'll be a lot of fun to do, spend the day and go out and see City Hall and Parliament and, of course, Table Mountain. So it's going to be a busy day and a lot of fun there in Cape Town. We're also going to take you then, while you're there, of course, one of the highlights and must-sees is visiting the Cape of Good Hope. So look at the sign. Look at the sign there at the bottom. That's my wife and I. So look at the sign, and this tells you all you need to know. At that moment, you are literally standing at the bottom of the South African continent. There's nothing behind us, right? But ocean and the Antarctic. So there's nothing behind you at that point. So this is a must see. I mean, everybody goes there. We all stand and get our picture taken. We stick it back on Facebook and tell all of our friends that we're, standing at the bottom of Africa. So, but I think if you look at the top picture toward the right, especially, that to me is fascinating because look at how beautiful and green and scenic and mountainous that is. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know what Cape Town would even look like, but I have to admit, I was not imagining that kind of scenery. I just wasn't. I was kind of picturing it to be, just flat and desert like. I had no idea, but it turns out to be this beautiful, green, lush, mountainous city. So the scenery is beautiful. The Cape of Good Hope's a lot of fun. You'll get your picture taken behind the sign. I'm sure you did, Amanda, your group last time they were there. That lighthouse you see on the left, you can either walk. I did not walk. You can take a little, a tram that takes you back and forth up to the top, which I did. That was easier. So that was a lot of fun. So anyway, so you're going to enjoy your day there at the Cape of Good Hope and get your picture taken and have a lot of fun. So Cape Town's going to be good. But now, while we're in Cape Town, then we actually will go out and visit clearly South Africa's most, feared and ferocious animals, which are the penguins. So
I love those penguins. They're just too cute.
It's amazing because there was like 10 million, penguins all dressed up in their tuxedos standing there waiting for us. It's unbelievable.
I know. The first time we took our daughter there she was like 4 years old, and all she was running after the penguin. It's like, well, this is the coolest thing to see penguins in South Africa.
Well, I'll tell you, there was two animals that I wanted to bring back after my trip. One was a penguin, and the other was a hippo. And
I love it.
I wanted to bring both back so bad.
But anyway, all right. Your luggage very well.
No, the hippo will not fit. So, but my God, anyway. So on this day in Cape Town, then we of course drive kind of down the coast. It's a beautiful drive, but we drive to this place called Boulder Beach, and Boulder Beach is of course where the world famous beach for the penguin colony. And you will actually get out of the vehicles and walk around through the penguin colony because although you don't see it here, they've got like, wooden sidewalks that run throughout the penguin colony, and you'll walk around through the penguin colony and see them. My funny tip here is that they really stink to high heaven because they love their sardines. So they do smell. I will say that right off the bat. So prepare for that because you're going to smell the sardines in them. But boy, they're so cute, and they're just all over the place, and you got to love them. So that's all going to be part of your, your experiences there in Cape Town. So a lot of fun, but Boulder Beach is beautiful and world famous. So you'll have a lot of fun there. Okay. So what we've just seen so far is, we've spent 3 nights or so in Cape Town, done a lot of things, kept busy, seen a very modern, very Western, English speaking, gorgeous city. So we've had a lot of fun in Cape Town. Now we're actually flying from Cape Town up to Kruger International Airport. So now we're actually flying to your first safari. So now we're flying into the Kruger National Park. And Kruger National Park, of course, is really world famous. That's probably one of the most famous world national wildlife national parks in the world for sure. So you're going to be here 3 nights. You're going to do 5 game drives, and you see all these animals here in that picture. Well, prepare for that because you're going to see that times 10. So 5 game drives, and what a game drive is, just so you know that when you're on a game drive, because you're doing game drives in Kruger and you're doing game drives in Botswana, right? 2 different places, 2 different countries, but the concept is basically the same, with a little tweak in Botswana that we'll talk about in a second. But in Kruger, you're going to do the game drives by vehicle, by Jeep, right? So now it's that classic picture of you being in a Jeep, driving through the national park, seeing all these animals like you see in front of you. So you're going to do 5 game drives. The game drives generally happen in the morning and then before dusk. So you're going out early that morning, 6-ish or whatever. You're leaving early that morning, going out for 2 or 3 hours for your morning game drive because you want to see the animals while they're up and active and not just sleeping at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They take naps in the daytime too. So you want to see them in the morning when they're active. And then we go back out before dusk for a couple of hours for another game drive. So 2 a day, 1 morning, 1 in the late afternoon, and then you're back at the camp during the day. So just kind of keep in mind, that's that's the basic concept of what safaris look like. So it's not like you're out in the Jeep for the next 8 hours and it's just a long day and brutal. That would actually be too much, quite frankly, I think, for most folks. So what we do is we go out in the morning for 2 or 3 hours, come back, and then go back out that later that afternoon before dusk. So 5 game drives while you're at Kruger National Park, and it's all about the animals. So you're really going to get a chance to see the big five and just thousands and thousands of animals, and be in the Jeeps and pull up next to them and park next to the lions and see the giraffes and the elephants, and it's just so incredible. So this is going to be amazing. And the neat thing too, those 3 nights that you're staying in Kruger, you've got one heck of a property. You're staying at Madula Safari Lodge, which is, as you can see in that picture on the left, well, and on the right, it's a beautiful place. So we've certainly come up with a world-class property for you. Gorgeous. That's a big swimming pool that you see there in front of the hotel on the right. But when you look at that picture on the left, I don't know what most of us probably imagining a safari to be, but I think very often we're kind of picturing it to be roughing it in some way, and I wouldn't describe that. This is glamping in a big way. Look at that picture on the left. If you didn't know that was a tent, then you'd never realize that you're at a 5-star accommodation like that. So beautiful places. 3 nights there at Madula Safari Lodge. But like I say, this is what it's all about. That's why you're there. It's to stay in a nice place, but it's to go out and do those game drives. And like I say, while you're in Kruger, you're going to do 5 game drives. We do have an optional event planned if you want to do it. It's up to you guys. Check with Amanda, and she can give you the details on that. But we have this kind of authentic, what they call it, a bush spray barbecue. So they're going to do this big barbecue that night. So it's an optional dinner that you can purchase and do if you want. So you don't have to, but certainly lots of fun and very authentic, and a neat way to kind of experience being in Kruger National Park and being around the campfire and having this big barbecue. So if you're interested, then of course, just talk to Amanda and she can help you out with that. But that's going to be available. That'll be on September 7th, I believe, is the date for that dinner that we'll have set up. And if you want to do it, just let Amanda know. So from there, we've just spent now 3 nights in Kruger seeing all the animals. Now we're going to buzz over to Victoria Falls for something a little different, right? So now we're staying at the Ivani Resort, which is in Zambia, and it's gorgeous. So there's another great picture of the Ivani. So once again, these hotels and resorts and places that we found are beautiful, luxurious, and just really fabulous. So these are great choices. So the Ivani's another beautiful place. It's really right on the edge of the Zambezi River, and of course, just steps away, almost, it seems like, from Victoria Falls. So great resort that we'll be staying at, and that'll be fun. So while we're at Victoria Falls, what we're doing is actually a few things. It's not just the falls. So one of the events that we have planned, of course, we'll take you on the Zambezi River. So this is a sunset river cruise. So this is a big boat. This is not a canoe. This is a big boat. It carries a couple of hundred people. They've got music and booze and snacks and food, and it's a lot of fun, right? So it's a good sized boat, a couple of hundred people. And what we do is, it's a sunset river cruise. So what we do is we sail up and down the Zambezi River. The Zambezi, of course, feeds Victoria Falls itself. So on one side of this picture, if you're looking at that river, one side of the river is Zambia, the other side of the river is Zimbabwe, right? So the two countries literally border the river, and then that river feeds the falls. So we're going to do the Zambezi River sunset cruise, and that's a lot of fun. So what I loved about it was my wife actually took that picture of that hippopotamus, because this is why I want the hippo, because one of the things that you'll see while you're on that boat, guaranteed, is just hundreds and hundreds of hippopotamus. And I have to admit, they were amazing, because you see them on TV and they're big and whatever, but until you see one in real life and you realize that he's as big as an SUV. I mean, they're just massive, right? They're just massive. And as the boat would kind of sail past all these hippopotamus, many of them the males especially, would swim out toward this big boat and kind of launch themselves out of the water and open their big mouth like, "Hey, back off. This is my river." My wife took that picture as we passed, but it was amazing. And you'll see lots of crocodiles, and holy cow, they make our Florida alligators look like iguana. So those fellas are big. But the hippopotamus, to me, were just such an interesting part of that trip. So I like that. So the Zambezi River cruise will be something that we'll do while you're there. That's a blast. This is just, I love this picture, because this is typical of what you're going to see at the resort, right? Because what's interesting about the resorts at Victoria Falls is there's no fencing, right? There's no fencing around the hotels. So the animals all come and go right through the resort. So my wife and I, we just finished lunch. We were headed back to the hotel room and we came across 5 zebra that had strolled onto the property to have lunch too. You can see she walked. She would have ridden one if she had the chance. She would have jumped on the back of that guy and taken off. So we're standing there next to 5 wild zebra. But while we were there, we saw zebra and we saw giraffes and we saw elephants on the property. It's amazing. So this is the kind of thing that you'll see at the hotel, not just being on safari, but just at the hotel. It's a lot of fun. But of course, Victoria Falls is Victoria Falls, right? At the end of the day, this is what it's all about. It's getting the chance to see the falls, and it's magnificent. It's one of the world's largest, third largest in the world. But it's called the Smoke That Thunders because when you're there, and you'll see it even from your hotel, you'll probably see it off in the distance. You'll hear the roar of the river going over the falls, but you'll see the mist coming up, and that mist is what they call the Smoke That Thunders. So it's fascinating. So it's just beautiful. Rainbows everywhere, all directions. Every time you look at the waterfalls in a different spot, there's another rainbow. But there we go. That's a great picture. I love this picture of the falls because there you see the rainbow and the waterfalls, and it's just incredible. Below that rainbow is a train trestle. And so one of the optional tours that's available to you guys would be there's a dinner train that goes out each evening, and they park the train cars on that bridge at sunset and have dinner. So imagine that, sitting on that bridge overlooking Victoria Falls at sunset. Wow, what a neat way to have a nice dinner. So this will be a lot of fun. So we've got some fun stuff planned. Plus, Victoria Falls, the cool thing is there's so many things to do there to keep you busy for those couple of days. So like that top left picture, there we go. There's Amanda and the gang, right? Sitting in Devil's Pool. There she is right there, sitting at the edge of the pool. Oh my gosh. That's one of our, an optional day tour. You don't have to do it, of course. But if you're interested, check with Amanda. She can get you set up on that. On the right, we see helicopter rides. They've got ultralights that fly now. Boat rides up and down the river. Toward the bottom left there, the research safari. That's where you actually get a chance to go to a place where they keep and maintain and rehabilitate lions, for example. So the research safari is going to be a chance to kind of get up close and personal to some of the lions that they're rehabilitating. And then the Elephant Cafe is a neat place because that's where you actually go and have not only lunch, but of course you get the chance to see the elephants. And they're not really doing the elephant rides anymore, but like in this picture, you see us on the elephants. They're not really doing the elephant rides anymore, but of course you get a chance to see them and pet them and be near them and learn about them. And that's really even more important. So a lot of fun activity. Moral of this story is that while we're in Victoria Falls, then for these couple of days, there's a lot going on, right? The river cruise, the falls itself, all these optional tours that are available. There's a lot to do. So we're going to keep you really busy for those, couple of days that you're at Victoria Falls. All right, we're starting to wrap up our trip now. We're starting to wrap things up. So now we've finished up. We've seen Cape Town. We've seen Kruger National Park. We've seen Victoria Falls. So now we're about to end the trip on another high note because it's more safari and really and my favorite place. So what we're going to do now is drive from Victoria Falls over to Botswana. It's only an hour and a half drive. It's literally next door. So we're going to drive over to Botswana for more safaris. So there we see that picture of the Jeep. So that's clearly part of it. But we're going to drive over to Botswana, stay there a couple of nights. And I can't see the thing at the top there, Amanda. Does that say 2 nights or 3 nights? I can't see the very top. I don't know I can't tell what that says.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. We're there for 3 nights.
3 nights. Okay.
And
okay.
I really want to tell you something because most people don't realize this.
Tell me.
This property is over the water and it actually is in Namibia. So you will get 2 countries with this. You'll get Botswana as well as Namibia. So that's totally cool, in my opinion.
That is cool because you're right. You're going to actually, this particular case, because of the property that we've chosen here, which is the Chobi water villas. And this is just one picture. If when you get a chance, for anybody listening, Google, Chobi water villas, and then you can see a million pictures because it is a fascinating property because as you see, it's literally, I want to say about 15 separate, kind of water villas there along the river at this particular property. So it's small, it's gorgeous, right on the river. So we've really made a great choice on this one. So that's one picture, but if you want to Google it, you'll see a million pictures about the property. So gorgeous place. You can see the guy, or the person has their camera. Bring your camera, whether it's a cell phone. I use my cell phone, quite frankly, because I don't want to drag around a big camera. My wife took her big camera, so she got all the great pictures. But either way, no matter what kind of camera you've got, you're going to get some serious pictures. I guarantee it. So you're going to stay at a beautiful place, and 3 nights there, right? So once again, why are we here? We're here to have a little more safari. So here we see the Jeep, here we see the lions nearby. But the neat thing about Botswana, and this is I think I'm sure Amanda agrees, and this is what, even for we as a company, when we generally do a South Africa tour, we almost always use Botswana. Almost always. Why? Because Botswana has something actually that even Kruger does not have, or any of the national parks, quite frankly. Even the Masai Mara, the Serengeti, none of them actually have what Botswana has. Because what Botswana has that the others don't is a river. So while you're in Botswana, you're going to do two kinds of safaris. You're going to do the classic Jeep safari, right? Get in the Jeeps and drive around the national parks and see the animals, which is a lot of fun, right? And once again, these safaris typically happen in the mornings and before dusk. So same concept. We're still doing them, one in the morning, one in the late afternoon. But this is why you're in Botswana. Because in Botswana, we get the chance to also do a river safari. And I will tell you right now, this was my favorite part, no doubt. Because I took this picture. I was using my cell phone. I took this picture myself from the boat. So you see that boat in the background. We're on a boat about that size, carries 20, 25 people or whatever, right? So it's a small boat. You'll probably fill the boat yourself. So, I mean, it'll probably end up being just you guys, most likely. But it's a small boat, 20, 25 people or whatever. And what they do, though, is they kind of sail up and down the Chobe River, which, keep in mind, you're staying on with your properties. But, they sail up and down the Chobe River looking for animals because, needless to say, all the animals in the entire national park eventually come to the river to get water. So you see the elephants and the zebras and the water buffalo and the hyena, the lions, and you name it. They generally come to the riverside at some point to get water. So this picture I love because when we were on the boat, we saw this big herd of elephants kind of milling about on the shore. A huge herd, 40, 50 elephants, including little tiny babies, and they were cute as could be. But we noticed that the matriarch, the leader of the pack, the she elephant in charge, and the matriarchs, by the way, are female, not male. So that was interesting. I didn't know. So the female, when she decided it was time to swim, then she swam across the river right in front of us, and that the entire herd followed her across the river like they're in the circus. I mean, literally tail by tail, followed her across the river. And the river's big, it's deep, it's like the Mississippi. I didn't even realize elephants could swim, quite frankly. I never thought about it. But you watch the elephants go down, stick their trunk up, go down, come back up, get air, go back down. It was unbelievable. So I love this picture. I love this part of the trip because you're on the boats, you're 10 feet away from all these elephants that decide they're going to swim across the river right in front of you. So this is the kind of thing you'll see, plus all the animals that just come down to the shore side for water that day. It's just, oh my gosh, what a blast. So Botswana, without a doubt, is going to be a highlight of your trip, guaranteed, because you're getting the chance to see them by land and by water. So this will be fun. So yeah, right. So a lot of fun.
The elephant, I think, is one of my spirit animals. And for us to be somewhere, I think there's 2,000 elephant that live inside of Chobe National Park. And as we kind of discussed, it's, Chobe River is between two countries.
Right.
So they just freely go back and forth, and you get so close up and personal with those elephant and the lion that are in the park and the zebras and everything else like that. But it really is, if somebody asked me where my favorite destination is, Chobe National Park is absolutely ranked within the top 2, and the other one is just Kenya as a whole. So, Chobe National Park is just so absolutely incredible. And you do get, if not at least this close, much closer than you can even see where the elephants are. So,
because this was at that moment, we actually, the neat thing was in my case, when the entire herd eventually made it across to the other bank, which is actually the Namibian side. When they made it across, we actually pulled the nose of the boat up on shore, and it was fascinating because the herd was kind of off in the distance, and the matriarch saw us pull the boat up to the shore and kind of nudged the boat up on the shoreline. And she saw that, and she was off in the distance. And she walked all the way around back to where we were. And this was wild. I'll just never forget this. She walked all the way back around to us and literally stood 10 feet off the bow of the boat, looking at us, right? I'm looking eye to eye with this massive, massive elephant. And she's kind of staring at me, and I'm staring at her, and the ears are going back and forth. And it was just the most, I couldn't even take a picture. I was so blown away. I didn't even get a picture of that, but I'll never forget it. So this is fascinating. So what a great way to end your trip, because you've done and seen a lot that, that week and a half, but boy, Botswana is a heck of a way to end the trip, because it's the combination of the land and the river that I just really, really love so much. So Botswana is going to be a blast, a beautiful property once again. So keep in mind that all the places you're staying, you're not roughing it at Days Inns. I mean, these are gorgeous hotels, the entire route, beautiful villas, beautiful glamping camps there in Kruger. So you're going to enjoy the properties and love the things that you'll see and do. All right, so we kind of wrap up. I hate to say it, but we now wrap up our trip, and we'll fly from Chobe back to Johannesburg, and then Johannesburg, of course, back to the United States. Johannesburg is like their Atlanta, right? That's just where all the planes come and go. So especially international flights. So we'll fly you from Chobe back to Joburg, and then you'll take your flight from Joburg back to the U.S. And so Amanda can give you all the flight information that she's come up with. I'm sure she has all that, so she can tell you all about the flights coming and going. But this gives you hopefully a nice idea of what your trip looks like. As I went through your itinerary, I got real jealous real fast, because it's like, holy cow, I want to go on this trip, because I've done this trip and it just brought back a lot of great memories that makes me want to go again. So I know you'll have a lot of fun. Contact Amanda, let her know that you're interested in going. Let's fill those last couple of rooms and go and enjoy it. I will say this, just to wrap things up, just as of this week, South Africa and most of the East and South African countries are all loosening and making their travel requirements much easier. So that's fabulous to see. It's just making life so much simpler for us. So we're happy to see that. And I think it's going to get better and easier for us. So, we're certainly heading in the right direction. And so contact Amanda, let her know you're ready to go, and she'll get you booked. And if she has questions, then she can contact me. But Amanda has had the pleasure and been fortunate enough to actually work with the owner of Salute Africa, Victoria. And you've gotten to know Victoria over the years. And there is no one that knows more about South Africa and East Africa than her. So she's a wealth of information and a good contact for Amanda. So if you've got questions and she doesn't know the answer, then she'll contact Victoria that owns Salute Africa, and she will know the answer. So there we go, folks. Anything else, Amanda? Anything else that I forgot to talk about?
The only other thing that I wanted to say is I know that several of you are interested in group trips and maybe necessarily aren't as comfortable going somewhere like a huge destination like Africa on your own. So a group trip is very interesting to you. But I do also want to tell you, if the dates September 1st to the 14th don't work out for you, I plan independent or family travel to Africa, all over Africa on a regular basis. So if this was something that you came on the webinar, something that you came on or stumbled across because you're interested in planning a trip, but the dates don't work out, it's no problem. I work, as Bruce said, directly with the owner of Salute Africa. We customize these trips on a regular basis to fit your dates, to fit your requirements, whether you're bringing kids, whether you've got somebody who's in a wheelchair, or if we have to make any sort of special accommodations, we make sure to handcraft those itineraries together to fit you and your perfect dream trip to South Africa. So that's the only other thing that I wanted to make sure we touched on, though this is for group. And yes, you would be coming with me, and I absolutely love Africa. So I would love for you to join me on my group. I just wanted to make sure you knew if you couldn't join me on my group, that it definitely would be something that I could customize for you. We did get a question. Did you see that?
No, go right ahead. I haven't seen it yet. What's the question?
So Don and Barb asked, what's the climate like in September, and do we need any special inoculations to go? So those are great questions. Bruce,
they're great questions.
Answer, or would you like?
No, they're great questions. Yeah. So one of the nice things about South and East Africa is that they're year-round destinations. meaning that they don't have really a winter. I will say their seasons are different from ours. They're south of the equator, so our summer is their winter. So for us, September, for example, would be, theoretically the beginning of fall. So for them, it's more the beginning of spring, right? Their seasons are backwards from us, but more importantly, the weather conditions year round are just beautiful. So you're going to be in the 60s and 70s and 80s really throughout the entire trip. So weather really won't be an issue. What I always recommend is, regardless of where you're going, even if it's on a cruise, what I always recommend is a couple of days before your trip, just go to weather.com and plug in, Cape Town and plug in Victoria Falls and see what the weather is, right? Get a 10-day weather forecast, because that'll tell you right there, oh, I better bring my umbrella, or, it's going to be 85. So I don't need to worry about having, heavy coats, right? So a couple of days before your trip, just go to weather.com, plug in a couple of the cities that you'll be at, and that'll give you an instant, 10-day weather forecast. You know what to plan for, and then you're good. But generally speaking, September, and I will say this, September for us, October, even November, those are by far our peak seasons, because just the weather's gorgeous, right? Rates aren't quite as bad, but the weather's gorgeous. So great time to go. Your other question was about, I think, inoculations, meaning like the yellow fever and all that stuff. Yeah, no longer necessary. Back when I went a few years ago, Zambia at that point was requiring yellow fever, which they do not now. So yeah, no yellow fever shots are required for your trip, which is nice.
We do recommend malaria medicine while you're traveling, just in case you are like me and you have extra sweet blood that those mosquitoes love. We do recommend taking malaria medicine, but we recommend that you go to a travel doctor, or CVS Minute Clinic does it. There's several places that do it, and they can prescribe you your malaria medicine ahead of time, and just update your general shots, but there's nothing required, like Bruce said, with like yellow fever or anything like that.
Yeah. And the malaria pills, actually, a good point. They're very simple. It's an antibiotic. So, you'll get the bottle of pills and you'll start taking them, it'll tell you a week before or whatever. And very simple. I had no side effects. It was simple. It cost me $4. It was, but well worth it. It's the peace of mind of just not having to worry about stuff like that. So it's just easier to take them and not worry about it.
Absolutely. And the other thing that, at least for me and what I noticed, is when we were in South Africa, especially up at Table Mountain, you are high up and it's windy, and it's at the furthest tip south. So it is a little more chilly in South Africa than it is in Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Zambia, anywhere like that. And where you see South Africa, like Bruce was telling you earlier, is a little more like San Francisco, where you've got like the mountains and the hills and everything. It does, because it's right on the waterfront as well. In my opinion, I felt like it was significantly more chilly, but not cold. Right. But yeah, it was a little more chilly for my southerner blood at this point. And then we always recommend, I'm going to stand up a little bit. We recommend layering pieces. So this is it's not Columbia, but it's like one of those Columbia like fishing shirts. It's airy and it helps be breathable, but it's also long sleeve, so it protects you from any bugs and sunshine and everything like that. Because when you're on those game drive vehicles, you've got exposure to the sun. So we like recommending clothes like this, definitely a hat, and scarves or masks, not because of COVID. We've been recommending scarves or masks for years before, because the dust, it tends to be a little bit more dry in Botswana and Zambia and Zimbabwe. So we recommend to make sure not to have the dust fly up in your face, to kind of wear a scarf to cover up with, or a hat, just to kind of cover and protect your skin. But layering pieces are always perfect for these type of trips, because on days that you're warmer, you get to take off the layers. On days you're cooler, you layer them back on. We say dress like an onion on a regular basis. That way you can peel those layers away.
Well, that's actually a good point, because even when I think back to my own trip, I had a jacket that I took with me that morning, for example, because it was chilly or whatever. But then it warmed up and I left it in the vehicle, when we went and saw whatever. And the same thing if you're in the Jeeps, you're not leaving the Jeep and walking through the national park. You're staying in in the vehicle or the boat or whatever. So even if you have to take your jacket off or sweater off, then you can, because you can just easily leave it in the vehicle or whatever. So that's a great idea to layer up, and that way if it's chilly, you've got it with you. But if you don't need it later on in the afternoon, take it off and leave it in the car.
Agreed. And a lot of you mentioned it earlier too, when we're in Chobe and in Kruger on any of those game drives, we're waking up before the sun. So we're coming out and it's chilly and dewy outside. But as the day goes on and as the morning, the sun starts to rise, you've got that sun, so the heat. So we always are a little bit more chilly on the morning game drives than we are in those afternoon ones.
Very
so
true.
you can, and you can leave your jacket either in the room, you come back for lunch,
Right.
get to relax a little bit, hop in the pool, have a great time, and then go back out again for your game drive in the evening for sunset. So that's always a great experience.
That's right. Good point. Good question.
We did have another question about how is the COVID situation? So I think we should probably address that with COVID requirements going into South Africa, as well as what type of things we're currently doing to protect against COVID and the situation on that. Do you want to start off with that, Bruce?
So the latest protocol requirements from South Africa, for example, which are good. Fully vaccinated passenger U.S. travelers coming into South Africa no longer have to be tested on the way in. So that just, if you're fully vaccinated, can prove it, then you don't have to have your PCR test on the way in. Unvaccinated travelers are welcome to come. They just have to have their PCR test within 72 hours of their trip. So either way, it's simple, but certainly for those that are vaccinated, just one less thing to worry about. Because maybe a year ago or 6 months ago, you would have had to have been vaccinated and still have the test. Now you don't have to have the test anymore if you're fully vaccinated. So that makes it fairly simple. What was the other question? I forgot already.
So are they? So I can kind of give perspective, but I want to know what your experience is, because every country is a little bit different. Requirements, we're on these small properties,
Right.
So our group is going to be the only people, and a lot of them staying there.
Right.
So because we're all traveling companions, traveling together, they're not going to be as strict on requirements of you have to wear a mask between this and this position or in the game drive vehicle, because we're traveling companions traveling together.
Exactly.
It's of course always a choice, but what is the requirement? Are you aware of what it is park to park? Because we have to do this for every trip. I just don't know it off the top of my head, because every single park is different and every trip is different. But because they're open air game vehicles, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're loosening the requirements on those significantly as well, and not really requiring masks when you're in the game drive vehicle because they're open air.
Yeah, and funny enough, with East and South Africa, and it's probably one of the reasons that we as a company, quite honestly, have been moving lots of people for the past year, because at the end of the day, when you think about just think back at what I've just shown you. What did all of those pictures have in common? We were generally outside with every picture, right? This is not like we're walking around museums and the Vatican, right? This is not like we're walking around places that are indoors with 1 million people and whatever else. What you saw there was each day we were generally in a vehicle, on a Jeep, in a boat, at an outdoor barbecue, at Victoria Falls, whatever. So it's nice, because it just means that, the actual vacation experience that you'll be on is really wonderful, because you're not traveling with lots of other people. And in fact, your case, like Amanda said, you'll be traveling with generally just your small group of 20 people, which is really nice. So therefore the requirements, wearing face masks and things like that we kind of associate now with COVID or whatever, you just don't have to really worry about that or see that much, because you're literally in vehicles and outdoors most of the time. Even the restaurants in South Africa and these other places, it's more like the US now. I mean, that they've certainly, just like we have, it's well under, control. The numbers are going down. That's not the issue that it was a year ago. So even as you travel around these maybe cities like Cape Town, you'll see that, the masks are worn by some, not by all, not required, in most places, and just very simple. But the bigger picture is really just the entire experience that you're on just kind of lends itself perfectly to offering a nice experience where you're not having to worry about the face masks and, all that jazz, just because that's not what a South Africa tour does. So it's kind of perfect. It's really perfect.
I have to say, going to Africa in general has had such an uptick since COVID, because people still wanted to travel during COVID, but what were they told to do? Stay outdoors, go into small, don't be in big groups, be in small family units, that sort of thing. That's all trips like safaris are. They're small units. You're going to be with 6 people in a game drive vehicle.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's exactly
you're not in large buses. You're not in museums, like Bruce said. So no matter what, your feeling is on COVID, you can be extra vaccinated and wear a mask, but you're not required to be. You have to go through a few steps to go through it, but you're in small groups. It's like the best of all situations, in my opinion. So we've been having people going to South Africa, East Africa, all over Africa over the course of COVID.
Oh yeah.
You couldn't travel to other destinations. And it's been like, I've sent honeymooners away in 2020. People weren't even traveling then. What do you mean you're sending honeymooners to Africa? No, they're going because they can go. It's open and they're able to. So it has been an amazing destination, especially during COVID, because of the type of experience you get. So.
And that's exactly right. I mean, and certainly as a representative with the company, I've seen the business, over the past year and a half, and it's just been consistent because luckily we kind of offer that experience that really does lend itself to meeting the needs of what the traveler wanted and needed at that point, and because that's what we do anyway. So it's not like we had to reinvent the wheel. We were already offering kind of what that vacation needed to be to make it safe and happy and fun in the first place. And we've had lots and lots and lots of people go and come and love it. So and you will too. This will be a wonderful experience for sure.
Agreed. Does anybody else have any other questions? I saw those ones pop up on the chat, but if any of you have questions, feel free to chat it in now, or you of course can always call me at the office. The number's 386-734-7245. But if you got on this, I'm sure you know how to find our phone number, because it probably was emailed to you, or you found it on Facebook or somewhere online. So if you have any questions, let us know. We will be sending a recording of this out probably Monday or Tuesday, and I will link in there also some of our videos that are on YouTube from past experiences, so that you can look through if you want a little bit more than just the presentation you watched. It will come through also with some of our YouTube videos from past experiences.
And I would recommend that, because I'm the first to admit that a picture literally paints 1,000 words, and there's no doubt about it. So, I can talk about this until the cows come home, but boy, until you actually either see it for yourself or at least see pictures, then it all starts to make sense. So check out some of Amanda's videos. I've seen them; they're excellent. But I think more importantly, it'll really give you a good feeling for what you're about to experience, and that's why you're going. So check them out; they're good videos.
My videos might be excellent, but it shows nothing compared to the experience you'll have.
I would agree. There's nothing like being there, but it's a close second. But nevertheless, you win out by actually taking the vacation with you in September. Then you get a chance to see it.
Yes. I hope that a few more of you will join me in September.
Please do.
I'm so excited that you all joined today. Happy Friday. Happy April Fool's Day. There's no fooling here. Africa's amazing. So there's no jokes about it. But thank you all so much for spending time with us this evening. Happy Friday, happy weekend. And Bruce, thank you so much for doing this presentation with us today.
Lots of fun, Amanda. I appreciate it. And I look forward to having you and your group join us in September. It's going to be great. I know you'll love it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Take care. We'll talk to you all later.
Yeah.
Bye.